Joining me in studio, Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson. Welcome back.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Good.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. Appreciate you coming in today as we talk a little bit about what's happening in city government and here locally. And there's a lot going on since the last time we had you or the last time we had the mayor in studio. And one of those issues, it was in the paper yesterday, LPNL and downtown, and this has been an ongoing, burying all the electric lines and power lines, everything. They've run into, it looks like, an issue downtown, a challenge. Is that the official challenge
I prefer
downtown?
to call it a challenge, opportunity to learn.
Well, what's happening with LPNL and downtown?
Well, I think there's just some issues in connectivity with those underground lines and getting those to the buildings. And once they get to the buildings, how that plays out inside the buildings. And I think they're trying to figure out how we're going to move forward from there.
It was something where you were quoted, I think, that you were frustrated with the process. Why
I am
is
very
that?
frustrated. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of communication, and it's between the downtown developer, LPNL, and the city, and that kind of that triangle on how things are to play out. All of a sudden we're here, and I'm not sure if it began at the very beginning in that we're just going to bury these lines, have these main trunk lines, and then no one thought about what's going to happen after that. How we're going to get them to the building and what's going to happen once they get to the building. And that has been very frustrating because all of a sudden we're here. We've got these lines buried in 1 and 2, phase 1 and 2. We're moving on to 3. We still have the challenges in 1 and 2. 1 is energized. Phase 1 is energized, yet we still have all these poles. So we're kind of defeating the purpose. To me, we're spending all this money, and we're defeating the purpose. So that's very frustrating to me. Why are we doing that? And in my mind, and I'm one of 7, and of course the board still has, that final say.
Right.
And so I'm one of many. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But now what do we do with phase 3? Do we put it on hold until we figure out what we're going to do with phase 1? How do we move forward? And it's just very frustrating. When you still have all of these lines, all these poles and all these lines in phase 1, yet you're energized, so you've got that redundancy there. Yeah,
and this is something where for downtown redevelopment, this has seemed as though it is a critical part of downtown redevelopment, right?
Well, yes, yes, and no. In once again, in my mind, and there I think is that lack of communication between the master developer and the council and the board, and the master developer continues to say that is a critical part.
Right.
Well, if it is, we've got that phase 1 is energized and ready to go, yet the poles are still up, and so is it really? We've got lots of movement downtown. We've got lots of things popping. And that's one of Connie Horton's favorite phrases is popping, bubbling up. And there are a lot of things moving, a lot of moving parts, yet we still have issues with these trunk lines. And we've got sewer lines and water lines downtown that they're fixing to have to start dealing with in that phase 3 and in burying these lines. And so there's just a lot of issues that I don't think they planned out. I'm not sure how well planned out this has been throughout. And I know they had consultants, I know they had engineers, but in my mind, we're hitting way too many traps on this side of it for it to have been planned out as well as I would like to have seen it planned out.
In your mind, going forward, what needs to change with the communication scheme, with LPNL, with burying the lines? What needs to change? What needs to happen moving forward in your mind?
Well, we've spent money on consultants. We spent money on engineers. And I think when you spend that kind of money on consultants and engineers, that's what you're paying them to do is find the challenges. I mean, those challenges to me should have already been fixed.
Yeah.
And why did you spend all that money on consultants and engineers if we're still having these problems and our boots on the ground are the ones that are finding the problems? I think that should have already been found. Now, once again, I know just enough to be dangerous. I'm not a consultant. I'm not an engineer. But from what I heard Mr. McGinnis say the other day, we're running into all these problems. Why are we just now finding them? We're how many years into this progress?
Yeah.
So it's just very frustrating from sitting in my seat.
Is there any known delay? Because I know downtown for the city council has been a priority, has been something that I think just about each member of the Lubbock City Council has, when either running for office or being on the dais, has said, we want to see, a booming downtown and we want to see downtown redeveloped. When you're looking at the entire plan for downtown redevelopment, does this put anything on hold that is substantial in your mind?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think this is a part of it. I believe this is a small part of what we do downtown. I do think it needs to be integrated into it, and I think redevelopment of downtown is priority, one of the priorities of the city. So no, I think we just keep moving forward, but I think we just have to figure out how we do that and how do we integrate this challenge and fix it and keep moving. I don't think you stop anything. But
is that where LPNL is as well? They want to move forward?
I haven't been privy to any of those talks. I would hope so.
Okay.
I would hope they, and whether it's slow down on phase 3 until we figure out what we're going to do with 1 and 2, but keep moving forward and keep planning and keep going forward with what we're doing in 1 and 2. And I don't know. I haven't been privy to any of those talks, so I can't answer that.
When we come back, we'll get into some other downtown issues, including the Omni building. And last week and the week before, there was chatter about a baseball stadium possibly being built in Lubbock. We'll get into those issues and so much more with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson, who is in studio. And if you have a question, you feel free to call in as well, 770-5790, toll-free, 1-800-687-0790. We also have city manager search to talk about. And, the budget, too. That's kind of a big deal over at City Hall. We'll get into that here on the Chad Hasty Show. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson in studio. Well, we have to talk about one of the big issues from last week at Lubbock City Hall, and that was the baseball stadium that was proposed. It made a lot of news last week. Did not seem like many people, if anyone, on the council were real embracing, open to the idea, ready for the idea to come to fruition. When you heard about the baseball stadium, what were your initial thoughts, and then what transpired last week about this whole baseball stadium?
Well, when I first heard, my first thought was they're trying to push it through. I felt very pressured. I knew nothing about it, and it was just hurry, just hurry through.
Right.
And so, consequently, I just said no. No. I knew nothing about it. I'd heard from no one other than Councilman Griffith had talked to me a little bit about it and said he had heard from Mr. Nelson, and I didn't get any backup on it until the day before our council meeting. So I was just not interested in it at all until I get more information on something that big and on something that's got to go to a vote before the voters,
right? Public
hearings, anything like that. I can't just do that in 24 hours, and that's a big deal. And I knew nothing about it, so I was not interested in voting on that night at all.
There was a vote for a delay.
Yes.
On that. So what is what was the vote for the? I know Councilman Griffith wanted to go ahead and just It sounded like he just wanted to end it.
Yeah,
end everything that night.
I think he wanted to just vote it down.
Yeah, and but the council voted to postpone it, vote on it at a later time, which, I mean, that could happen whenever.
Councilwoman Joy made a motion to postpone it indefinitely, which I'm fine with that. That gives us, if they want to bring it back later after we've had some time, lots of time to look at it and do there. I haven't seen any kind of a feasibility study. They gave us some studies that they've been working on since May. Well, something this big that the voters are going to pay that much money for, I'm not sure they can do anything that quick. That's a lot. And then they were going to send it to Austin. Now, mind you, they only had till like the 22nd of August to get all this back, have 2 public hearings to get it on the ballot in November. Well, that's quick. I mean, and so it was my understanding from visiting with other council members that Mr. Nelson had someone in Austin that was going to push it through the comptroller's office. Well, the comptroller's got 15 days to study it. Well, if they've got 15 days to study it and they're going to push it through in 24 hours, man, that just started sending up red flags to me. Mm-hmm. I was not interested in that at all. So, and then bringing it back here for 2 public hearings, and it just didn't smell right to me at all.
Is there, and I'm sure you heard from citizens, and whether it be by email or phone or whatever it may be, is there a future you think for baseball in Lubbock?
This could be a great project, and what I've looked at, it really could be a good project if it's done right and studied and gone through the process correctly. I'm not saying this is a bad project at all. I just think it needs to go through the correct process. As
a city council member, when you look at it, and there's a debate that happens really across the U.S., and voters in Arlington are having this debate right now about a new baseball stadium for the Rangers. Obviously, that would cost a lot more than what we're looking at here. Right. They're looking at about $1 billion. But the whole debate centers around who should pay for the stadium, how much taxpayers should pay versus what the ownership should pay for a stadium. If it's that great of an idea, why doesn't ownership kick in more money rather than the taxpayers? Let's just say that this does come up for a discussion again relatively soon. What is your thinking along those lines of what taxpayers should kick in versus what you would like to see the ownership kick in for a stadium?
Well, I'd like to see the ownership kick in a whole lot more. That's a pretty good gig if you can get the citizens to pay for it and you make the money on it. Yeah. So I'm not sure I'm interested in the citizens, taxpayers' money paying for something that somebody else is making a lot of money on. That concerns me, obviously, and from what I understand, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So I haven't done any research on that. So, but I guess in the sports world, that does happen a lot.
Is there any timetable that you've heard, from this group that
Nope.
They want to come back to the council? Nothing at all?
No, Mr. Nelson called me yesterday. I have not had a chance to call him back, but I will. But that's the first time he's reached out to me, so I have not visited with him yet. But I will. But that I have not talked to anybody.
I got to be honest. It just doesn't seem like from the so-called stakeholders. The hotels, they didn't sound like they were 100% on board with the hotel motel tax money being used.
No.
It doesn't sound like there are many council members on board with this. So is this
dead issue
right now?
I can't speak for any of the other council members, and I don't know that it's that they're not on board. I think that they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's just the lack of information that we have. But, we got a letter from the downtown developers, Mr. McDougall and Mark both signed, that said that, this might not be a bad project, but as of right now, they just couldn't support it right now. So there's a lot of folks that are kind of backing up on it. And obviously, Mr. Nelson agreed at the end of the evening
to delay.
Yes.
Let's see. The Omni building, talking about downtown.
Mm-hmm.
The Omni building is being redone right now. Where are we on the Omni building and the progress on that, or the Citizens Tower?
We're moving forward. Demolition, I believe, is just about done. We're about ready to have our tour with the media, so you'll be getting an invitation for that, and we'll go through that and kind of show you the shell of it.
Yeah.
It's been demoed and gutted per se, and so we've been having meetings with Perkins and Will and kind of getting our layout of the land, if you will, and so things are moving forward.
As far as you know, are we on budget with the progress right now?
We are. Things are so far are right on budget. I think we've had to stay kind of on top of that. We're going to have to stay on top of that. That can get out of hand pretty quick if you don't stay on top of it.
Sure.
The wants, and it goes back to just like everything else in budget, the wants versus the needs. And, you've got a new building, it's all pretty, and you want. But I think you have to be very careful. And Perkins and Will has been very in tune to growth. And it's hard for us to look at open space and say, do we really need all that? But as you look at it, that a lot of that open space that we're seeing is room for growth, and so in 10 years that's not going to be open space. So we have to be in tune with that too. So we're learning.
Are the plans still the same to move as many departments and everything into that one building?
Yes, and that is still going forward.
Visiting with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson on the program. A timeline for the building to be completed. Do y'all know when that's going to be, or do you have a ballpark?
I believe it's 18, the fall of 18. I think that's what they're looking at. I won't ever be in that. But.
Yeah. The open space that you were talking about, what is that?
Conference rooms on.
Okay.
When we were in that work session, we were talking about the conference rooms on each floor. That's the open space. It's not really open space. It's being used as conference rooms, but we were all concerned that we have conference on each floor. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of that is just for growth in those departments.
That's something where in the future you can go in and make rooms if you need to.
Because remember, this building isn't for 2 or 3 years. This building is for 30 to 50 years. So you've got to plan for that growth.
When we come back, we'll get into budget issues and also the city manager search, which those are the top 2 issues for all of you on the Lubbock City Council. So we'll get into those issues when we come back with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson on the Chad Hasty Show. Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson in studio with us, and let's start off talking about the budget in this portion of the half hour. The headline last week was council to look at wants versus needs as proposed city budget would increase the debt by 7%. And I know that's something that many of you want to avoid is increasing the debt load. Mm-hmm. So when you go into the budget season, what are you looking at right now? Is there anything to cut in the wants versus needs discussion?
Well, as we go through kind of this first look, as we've gone through in the work sessions, I've been looking at what can we cash fund versus debt fund or bond fund. Mm-hmm. As of, I guess, yesterday or Tuesday, it was Tuesday. Sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up. But Tuesday, we did over $3 million from bond funding into cash funding. So that was good. That was really a big deal with me. I think anytime you can cash fund something over bond fund, do so. One thing that really kind of bothered me in that was that we just went through in a work session and said, cash fund that, cash fund that, cash fund that. I was a little frustrated with why that wasn't done to begin with, instead of just bond funding. I think bond funding with those COs, it's so easy that it's just done. Now would you go through, or I will go back through and say, okay, now of those that we've done on those, what are the needed projects? And one thing our staff does do very, very well is go back through and what is the needed projects versus, what's really wanted. Now, you got to remember, we're running a city of 250,000 people. So there are things that may look like on the surface a want, but not really. You still have to have a quality of life. And I'm talking about parks and, things that someone may look at and say, well, we don't really need it. Yes, we do. We still have a city to run. And so you have to go back and weigh all of that out throughout the whole budget.
Has there anything that has popped up in the budget that has surprised you, or where you've looked at and gone, okay, there's no need for this. This is something that we just absolutely need to either strike or get rid of, or maybe move somewhere, something that just stands out to you in the budget?
No, I've just start with these workshops that we've done. I really like the way we're doing the workshops this year. Because we're really digging into them more so than we have in the past. In the past, we've just kind of done what I call the dog and pony show, and they've gone through. This time, we're really getting in and talking about it and working through it with the council. And so it's been not. And part of that is just because we've got 4 new council members that really need to talk through it. Mm-hmm. So it's been nice, not having.
Well, I was about to ask you because, between this year's budget and last year's budget, maybe the year before budget, when you've sat down and you've looked at all these budgets, what has changed to where now we can move money over instead of funding them through bonds, funding them through cash? What's changed in the last few years?
Nothing. Normally, though, that's just done, and we've always done that. But we've usually done it as we vote on the budget. This year, we're doing it as we go through. But once again, that's because we have 4 new council members. And so we're just kind of doing it differently. Different mayor, different way of doing things. I like the way we're doing it, because we're doing it more of a step by step. And once again, it's just a different way. But you've got 4 new council members who aren't actually doing it on their own like we've done it in the past. Everyone's kind of just doing it together as we go along. It seems to be easier, and it seems to be working better for Cheryl and her staff, being able to get it ready for that final vote in September.
One of the things that I know people will bring to the city council is improvement in parks. Mm-hmm. And that is, there's some very passionate people when it comes to improvement in parks and what the city, they feel like, should be doing. Are we seeing any kind of, projects that citizens wanted to see in different parks? Are we seeing, I know, it seems like splash pads are brought up every other year or so. Is there anything like that's being brought up in connection with the splash pads, pools going into the future? Those are always maintenance questions going into the future, correct?
And there again, I think you have to be very careful with what you're doing and what you're putting in. We have 81 parks that we have to be cognizant of throughout what we're doing. In our budget, our maintenance alone, lawn maintenance, our mowing contract went up over $400,000. What I'd like to see is us hire somebody as part of staff. A crew, hire, 2 crews. I don't care. Hire 2 crews. That goes up to $1.7 million a year. Surely we can hire 2 crews full time to handle our parks, because that's probably what they've got is 2 crews working full time doing our parks for $1.7 million. I would think that we could handle that, benefits and all. So I would like to see an analysis on that, but I'm just not interested in paying another $400,000. Based on because it rained, and I'm putting that in quotes because they're saying because it rained. Well, it hasn't rained like that this year. So if you're basing that on last year, upping it this year, that didn't happen this year. So that really concerns me. I'm not interested in paying another $400,000 based on what happened last year, and it's not happening this year.
So that's an outside business that y'all contract with?
Yeah, it's a contract.
Okay. Do y'all every year, do you ask for other people to submit bids to get in?
Yeah. And
so everyone just, or is it only this one group that tries to?
Well,
to
a lot
get
of
the
times
contract?
it's only this one because maybe they're the only ones that can handle it, or
Sure.
But I just feel like that can be just done so much more efficiently, and that's what you get into, and every year you find something new. Surely we can do that more efficient. Surely we can do that more efficient. And I feel like this may be one of those. Now, I haven't seen the numbers on it, but I just think you can do it a whole lot more efficient. Maybe with 2 crews working full time. Because a lot of we have 81 parks, but a lot of them are small. Mm-hmm. You knock out 4 a day or whatever.
Right.
And that's just a mowing contract. That doesn't count the fertilizer and stuff on top of that. That's just mowing. Wow. So, yeah, that needs to be looked at.
Visiting with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson. We'll take the break. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. In studio with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson, and one of the before we have one more break that we have to take, so I want to get into the Coliseum real quick. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech looking like they're going to lease the Coliseum. There was some concern, I know, from a listener last week who said, will the payment from Texas Tech cover the daily cost that the city spends, I guess, in electricity and everything else for the Coliseum? How is that going to shake out? And does this lead into the future maybe of the Coliseum being handed over to Texas Tech?
Well, I don't know what it's going to lead into, and I haven't seen the final numbers on that contract. But, we're losing over $700,000 a year on that Coliseum auditorium just for costs now, for electricity, because you have to have somebody there all the time. You have certain things that have to be done there every day. We're losing money on that every day. So the way I look at it is any amount of money we get is better than nothing.
Right.
And it dwindles away at what we're losing. So I once again, I have not seen the numbers on the contract because it wasn't finalized. So we haven't seen that yet. But I think anything we get from Tech is better than what we're making now, because we're not making anything on it now. We're losing money daily on it.
And there are a handful of events that they have at the Coliseum each year.
Yeah.
And I know there's a Christian concert that I think
there's
is
several
planned.
things, but we still lose money on it.
If Texas Tech moves in, basically, and they use it, will those events still happen? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
right.
That will be in the contract, and they are aware of those events, and so that will all be written in. And of course, the rodeo will still happen, and they are aware of those events.
Will the city still be able to, if a group comes in, let's say in a week or two after y'all finalize a lease with Tech, and if they want to use the Coliseum, would y'all still be able to lease it out?
I think that would have to go through Tech.
Okay.
At that point, Tech has the Coliseum for those days. So okay. I would think that if somebody came after that was signed, that they would have to check with Tech. I don't know the ins and outs of that.
Okay. So, but if you're booked already, you're good.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about the city manager search, which is a big issue here in the city of Lubbock with Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson. And also they will be holding a town hall meeting that we'll tell you about when we come back too. Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson in studio. Real quick before the city manager deal, you and Councilman Jeff Griffith will have a town hall forum coming up soon, correct?
We are, August 31st at the Red Zone Cafe from 5:30 to 7. Councilman Griffith and I are doing a joint town hall meeting. We'll be talking budget.
5:30 to 7 o'clock?
5:37.
All right, at Red Zone Cafe.
Red Zone Cafe, right there on Slide and Marsh Sharp Freeway.
That'll work.
Security.
Okay, cool. And I guess it's just come and go, 5:30 to 7. So if somebody shows up, they don't get off work till like 5:30. They can show up a little bit late.
Come
That's
on,
fine.
Because we'll be talking that whole time and taking questions, and love to see you there. And I haven't had one in a while, and I don't know how long it's been since Jeff had one, and very few people showed up. At mine, I had more staff than I had people, and so we thought, well, we'll just do a joint, and that's a really good area to have it. Kind of brings us both right there together, and so
people can get food too.
They can get something for dinner, and come on and let's chat and see what the issues are, and let's just talk.
Yeah, that'll be great. August 31st, Town Hall, Red Zone Cafe, 5:30 to 7 p.m. City manager search. Where are we on that?
It's out. It's out. We've got the Slavin group doing some good work for us. They had focus groups here, got the layout done, and got it out into the area, and so they are taking applications now. That should be coming back to us in October. I think we'll start or I guess back to them in October. I believe we'll get our finalist in November.
Okay. Who, for you, what are you looking for in the next city manager? What is your ideal candidate for city manager?
You know, we need a strong leader. We need someone who will not necessarily come in here and just strong arm everybody, but we do need a strong community leader. I feel like we need someone that has had experience either leading a very, I'm not going to say large company, but a strong corporation, or a municipality that's got that experience. I'm not dead set on someone that has been a city manager. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it plays into it necessarily. I would like somebody that has had lots of budget experience. I think that's extremely important. Obviously, a conservative person is important to me. Someone that can lead people, not micromanage people. I think leadership skills are extremely important in this situation. We need someone that's going to come in and be the leader and not have their thumb on everything they do.
What type of issues moving into the future, let's say in November when you have the finalist, whenever that person is on board, let's say beginning of 2017, let's just say, if they're on board in 2017, what issues are they going to face as city manager? What projects, what things are they going to be looking forward to in the future, you think?
Well, you know, right there on Avenue K is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. They've got a lot of upper management that's been there for a long time that may stay or may retire. And so that's going to be a big issue that they're going to have to face right off the bat. Or are they going to bring their own people, or are they going to stay? I don't know. I think that's going to be to be determined by them. So they'll have their own style. Whoever it is will come in, have their own style, may or may not have their own people, may want to keep whoever. And so it'll be different because I don't know I don't even know if anyone from within has applied. I've stayed completely out of it. I mean, that was the whole purpose of hiring the Slavin group. I just don't think the council needs to, in my opinion, the council just needs to stay out of it until we get to our finalist. So
what happens is you have the applicants who come in. When do y'all get involved? Like who narrows down the list?
At the Slavin group.
Okay.
The Slavin group does that, and then they'll
bring us. How many people do they give y'all?
You know, I'm not sure. 3 to 4 probably.
Okay.
I think that was the number we came up with, was 3 to 4.
But y'all sort of give, as a council, you give the group, here's what we're looking for, and they kind of narrow it down? Or
it wasn't just us. We had focus groups that they met with. We had committee groups. We had past council members, past mayors. They met with all the past mayors.
Okay.
They met with several community leaders and citizens across the city. So they got a good feel for what was needed for this community.
Great. Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson, appreciate your time today.
Sure.
And, just a reminder, August 31st Town Hall meeting with Councilwoman Gibson and Councilman Jeff Griffith at Red Zone Cafe, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.